On today's show, we'll be joined by the X's and O's man himself, Alykhan Bijani, to discuss takeaways from Houston Rockets Summer League and kind of setting the table for some of the deep dive content we're going to get into in the coming weeks as we navigate the true dog days of the offseason. Things like Jabari Smith's shooting, Tari Eason's offensive package, what happens between Daishen Nix and TyTy Washington in the battle for the backup point guard spot, all of that and more coming up right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start.
The Houston Rockets select Jalen Green and Jabari Smith Jr.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal.
Every time I step on that floor, I'm coming.
You're getting somebody who's going to come in with a chip on their shoulder, somebody who's going to come in and compete from day one.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. I'm also the host of Locked On NBA Mondays, host of the State of the Rockets podcast, as well as the founder of ClutchCityControlRoom.com. Be sure to follow along on Twitter at JT Gatlin, and the show, of course, at Locked On Rockets. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. We appreciate you for making us your first listen each and every day. In his long-awaited return, we are joined by none other than the film room rock star, the X's and O's expert himself, Alykhan Bijani. Alykhan, it's been a minute, and it's so nice to have you back on the show. How are you doing?
Good. You know, I've been waiting to come back for a while, and every time I want to come back, you seemingly have some other guests that you want to bring on. You have basketball players, coaches. I mean, I don't even know. I felt like you didn't want me to come back on the show, so. Yeah, you know, you're kind of cramping my style a little bit. You know, I've graduated past Alykhan. No, of course not. No, in fact, we have we'll tease it up right now. We have a very special announcement, so stick around for the end of the show where we will share some really, really cool, fun news. Hopefully, you guys will enjoy our announcement at the end. But we've got to talk about Rockets Summer League, and we got a large sample size, 5 games out of all the Rockets rookies, which I frankly wasn't expecting, Alykhan. I feel like in Summer League, you usually see rookies getting shut down after just 2 or 3 games. You know, teams don't want to risk injury or anything like that. And I kind of feel like Summer League's almost just like maybe a marketing ploy, which is why you start seeing the teams start blasting out like season ticket emails and stuff, because they're like, hey, we got the rookie. He's like really exciting. Like, come buy tickets from us. But it was really cool to get a 5-game sample size out of guys like Jabari, Tari Eason, TyTy Washington, even guys like Daishen Nix, who got a really healthy sample size in Summer League. Josh Christopher was shut down after just 3 games. We're going to talk about all these guys kind of in broad strokes on today's show, and then in subsequent shows further down the line, we'll be doing some deep dives on guys like Jabari Smith, all the different, elements from his game that we can expect to be impactful for the Houston Rockets this next season. Things like his shooting, his defense, his screening ability, all these different things that he brings to the table, as well as things for Tari Eason and TyTy Washington. But where I want to start, Alykhan, is just, going through these 5 Summer League games for the Rockets, who to you stood out as the most impressive rookie of the 3 for Houston? Wow, that's a great question. 3 of them were drafted, but I do want to give a special shout out to a couple guys who were not drafted before I picked the one I was most excited by. Aric Holman. He had a pretty good summer league. I really like him. I like his body. I like his size. I don't know what you can do with that. He's been in the G League a long time, or not a long time, but he's been in the G League before this. Had a short stint in the NBA. I like him. I think they should keep him around. Maybe he could be a 2-way contract kind of guy. I know they like him, so let's see what happens there. But in terms of the rookie who I was most impressed with, I mean, when you draft a guy at 3rd overall, you want him to be impressive. And boy, was Jabari Smith Jr. very impressive to me, especially defensively. I mean, Jackson, you were there in person. What stood out to you? I saw you taking those videos by the court. You mentioned his communication. I mean, what stood out to you when you were watching him live?
I think there's a couple things, and you mentioned it right. The communication aspect is absolutely there. Being 10, 15 feet away from the court on those baseline seats for that one half of basketball, and getting to hear him really verbalize so much defensively. And that's one of the things that I feel like coaches, especially when they're coaching young players, have to kind of almost like really, it's like pulling teeth in a way to get them to communicate effectively defensively. They might have the tools, the physicals, the measurables to be good defenders, to be good, individual one-on-one guys, or to be good team defenders, but it's the vocal element. It's having not just one person, but having the whole team bought into the idea of being vocal defensively and communicating on the defensive side of the basketball. And so for Jabari to already be embodying that part of the defensive side of the game and just constantly calling things out, quarterbacking the entire Rockets defense, and being in a position to do so because he was playing the 5 spot predominantly in Summer League, because Usman Garuba was unavailable. He was always, on the lowest end of the floor, kind of around the paint area, being able to observe all other action taking place on the floor. He wasn't defending at the point of attack, at least not consistently. He was out there on switches, of course, but when he was kind of the low man, within the Rockets defensive scheme, he was constantly calling things out. So that really stood out to me, just his willingness to kind of take that leadership role defensively and really take pride in that. But then just his sheer size. Like, I mean, I think he's listed at 6'10". I feel like he's got to be at least like 6'11", and he could be a legit 7-footer. He's maybe not done growing, right? And so you see like the size, the frame that he has, and a lot of people, some people threw like the KD comparison out there, and I'm like, no, well, not from a skills perspective, but just like the body type. I kind of see a bit more Giannis in the way that like his body at least looks right now, and the frame that he has, with the ability to probably add more muscle to that. And 10 years down the line from now, we could be talking about Jabari Smith being, another 25 to 30 pounds heavier than he is right now, and really being a force, physically in this game.
I agree with you, just on an aside, on that frame aspect of it. I think that one thing that's not talked about enough with Jabari is he's not as strong. I mean, okay, let me fix that. He is strong, but he's not as strong as you would want him to be, in the sense that his frame can definitely grow. He can add a lot more weight. And the thing about Jabari is, and the only reason why I entertain the Jason Tatum comparison is not style of play, but body type. Where in terms of Jason Tatum has those broad shoulders, Jabari Smith also has those broad shoulders. Makes it a little bit easier to be able to add more weight, add more upper body muscle for him to be able to do those things. Also, for him, he needs to be able to get more muscle in his lower body, his legs. There was that possession, or a couple possessions against Chet, where Chet kind of got the best of him when he was backing him down towards the rim. Now, his length is going to help him early on in his career in terms of stopping penetration, contesting at the rim, but he has to be able to get stronger to be able to make more of an impact, especially if he's going to play the 4 or the 5, and you're pairing him up with an Alperen Sengun, where Jabari will have chances to kind of come up from the weak side and defend bigs. He has to be able to get stronger. And I think, that's going to be something interesting moving forward. One thing you didn't mention, which I wonder what you think about watching him in person, is his defensive instincts. I feel like everybody has spoken so much about his switchability, point of attack defense, and the perimeter pressure that he has, but his instincts on when to help were great. He's not strong enough where the decisions he makes can be as impactful yet. And that's because when he gets stronger and he has more strength to his frame, he'll be able to kind of execute what he's already thinking. But you can see him. The thought process is there. Like when he sees, okay, I see a cut coming, let me come over there and help. Let me come over there and wall off this area. I mean, he's just making really smart reads, and those are more instinctual than anything else. And I think that bodes well if you're a Rockets coach, because you can establish a defense where he's not just good on the ball, which we saw plenty of in the Summer League, but you can rest assured that he's going to be great off the ball as well. We saw those weak side shot blocks, right? Especially the last game against Sacramento. But there were possessions where, he's coming over and he's deterring a layup, or he's deterring pretty much somebody from even attempting to go up in the air with the shot. And when you are playing alongside Sengun, who's going to be involved in a lot of pick and rolls, having that kind of guy to be able to clean up on the weak side and the help side is really going to help you. So a lot of really good stuff that translated defensively. I mean, this is not the same defense or offense as you're going to play in a regular season where there's a little bit more game planning, and especially in the playoffs, but just some transferable skills like the stuff that I mentioned, I think really, really stood out to me about Jabari.
Yeah, him being a help defender, he had this one play, and I do remember highlighting it because it was one where you got a little bit of everything, right? Where every so often you have those types of just so well-rounded defenders, those versatile defenders, where it feels like they were involved in every single action that took place on an entire defensive possession from when the 24-second shot clock started to when they forced the turnover or the violation, and it was against the Kings, and somebody drove in on Trey Mitchell towards the center of the floor. Jabari wrapped up the driver at first, didn't quite force the jump ball, didn't hold on to the ball long enough, but stopped the drive effectively as the help defender. Then got back out to his man. The pass got sent back out to the top of the key. Then his man puts a couple moves on him, tries to drive into the paint, and Jabari forces the turnover, gets the basketball, recovers it, and not only did he stop the offensive possession for the Kings, and was involved in multiple actions there, then pushed it up in transition, kicked it out to TyTy Washington for a wide open three that unfortunately TyTy didn't convey, but that was kind of just that glimpse into the future where Jabari at times maybe single-handedly, shutting down opposing offenses, because that's just the type of player he can be, right? With the fact that he can guard the point of attack, the fact that he can guard on switches, that he can force opponents into really difficult shots using his length on the drive or on the interior, all these different facets to his defensive game. I have one follow-up about Jabari Smith that I want to ask you. We're going to get there in just a moment after a quick message from our friends over at Built Bar. Look, when it comes to protein bars, you've got to check out Built Bar. They are the #1 protein bar on the market, and for very good reason. Every single bar is coated in 100% delicious chocolate. They're not gritty or chalky like other protein bars. Every bar comes with low cal, low sugar, high protein, high fiber, just the absolute best of the best when it comes to protein bars and the flavors that they give you. The list goes on and on and on with the flavors, but just a few off the top, right? Salted caramel, raspberry, strawberry, mint brownie, peanut butter, coconut brownie chunk is my personal favorite, cookies and cream. You really can't go wrong with a single flavor on their menu. And you can check them out. Just go to built.com and use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your very next order of the best tasting protein bars on the market. Again, that's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. And continuing on here at Locked on Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Let's continue the discussion here. Keep things focused on Jabari Smith Jr. for a moment. And Alykhan, I want to know, do you think that Jabari, at least right now, I know it's a small sample size that we've got, but we've also got some of the, the film, the footage from him at Auburn to look back on as well. Do you think he has greater potential as an individual, like one-on-one defender, or as a team defender? Because where he truly exceeded my expectations so far in Summer League, well, I know it, right? It's tough, but where he exceeded my expectations was I thought that he was going to be a good defender coming out of college. And then what we saw in Summer League, the way that he impacted and really kind of transformed the Rockets defense in Summer League has me thinking that he is bound for much greater things on defense than I originally envisioned.
While you're asking me that question, I'm already starting to think about different things about how he would look in certain situations. I think right now, and where he's going to have the biggest impact is going to be as an individual defender. And not saying he's not going to be a great team defender. I think being a good individual defender is going to help him be a great team defender. But right now, I think the individual defender part is very important. And what I mean by that is you mentioned in that last segment, right? That example of him stopping multiple opportunities for penetration. For me, that's what stood out to me. That's why when you asked me who was the most impressive rookie, I said Jabari hands down, because there were so many moments where a quick, fast, twitchy perimeter player wanted to get past him.
Well, to be fair, a lot of them are young as well. So you're not wrong.
I'm not wrong. But they're trying to get past him, and his length, incredible. The way he moves his hips, stays in front, stays aligned, stays parallel to the baseline. If you're parallel to the baseline, that means that you're stopping the person who's in front of you of getting past you. So the more you are parallel to the baseline, the quicker you can move, and the more length you have. That's makes a really good defender. So just taking away multiple actions early in the shot clock forces teams to have to get into those late shot clock situations, which for younger teams is usually in isolation. For older teams, it's also an isolation or a quick hit. But getting teams into late shot clock situations because your individual defense helps create that is a bonus for your team. So yes, I think individually is where he's going to have the best standout initially. in his career. But I think overall he's going to be a great team defender because he can just clean up so much. Like I mentioned, his instincts are off the chart. Off the chart. Sorry.
You're good. I was like so ready to jump in. I was like, oh, he's about to have a coughing fit. I got this. I'll save the show. No. But the great thing is, right, not only has Jabari Smith Jr. been, incredibly impressive, maybe a little bit underwhelming on the offensive side, right? And we're going to get into some of the shooting struggles that he faced, the efficiency, and we're going to talk about his shooting in a later episode. Jackson? Sure. Yeah, go for it.
Just because I know this is a big talking point. Rockets Twitter, Rockets Reddit, Rockets YouTube, Rockets Discord, Rockets Bleacher Report, Rockets any app you can think of. There's a Discord, Rockets barbershops, Rockets hangouts. I mean, everything you can.
Rockets smoke signals out in the forest. Yeah, all of that.
Yeah. Everybody's talking about Jabari shooting. Is his shot flat? What's going on? Jackson can tell you. I'm already prepared to talk about his shot, but we're going to save that for next week. So you're going to just have to wait till next week to hear about it. But I will tell you that I am not concerned. And the reason why, and I will go through that next week, is that moving forward, especially this season, he's going to be using a lot of pick and pops. And he was pretty comfortable and confident for the most part in the summer league. And if you're really concerned about his 3-point shot, go back and watch his attempts from 2, his mid-range shots. There were often times where, there were some of them were fadeaways, but the ones where he was kind of just, he set his shot, he was established, he was off the catch. Look at the release on there and look at where he was shooting some of those shots from 3. And you'll have some sort of an answer before we get into it next week. So sorry, Jackson. I just wanted to say that because it's been a big talking point, and it's a lot of people are worried that Jabari can't shoot the basketball or he can't make it. We'll get into that next week, but for just know, I'm not concerned.
No, he's a total bust. The Rockets made the wrong thing. No, Jabari was my guy the whole way through, so I haven't been too concerned with it as to this point as of yet. But yeah, we're gonna dive into that next week for sure. The other guy that the Houston Rockets picked up, who also happens to be an exceptional defensive presence as well, Tari Eason, pick number 17. And you mentioned earlier, right, Alykhan, talking about Jabari's instincts defensively. And this is, and you can check me if I'm wrong here, but I think right now, if I had to, make a choice as to who has the better defensive instincts, right? Because that's just like a gut thing. Like, you're making these snap decisions within, a 24-second defensive possession. I think Tari Eason right now has better defensive instincts than Jabari. I think Jabari reads defenses better. Like, he understands defensive principles and, I can help here, I can do this. But I think just that instinctual, like, I'm going to shoot the gap here. I'm going for the steal here. I'm going to, switch onto this guy here. I'm crashing the glass here. Like, closing out a defensive possession strong. Even, and I know this isn't defense, but just, I guess, the instincts on the floor in general, like even offensively, like the number of times that Tari Eason would crash the offensive glass, right? That's kind of an instinctive thing, right? Do I have the chance to get in there and get the rebound? And the play that really stands out to me was the one where Tari Eason, and I want to say this was against the Blazers in Game 4, and it was just before the halftime, and Blazers were, winding down the clock. They get into their action. Ball moves towards the right wing, and the 2 defenders are chasing the ball handler. So the ball handler tries to whip the pass to the left side of the court. Tari is not even on the screen when the pass starts getting thrown, and then he shoots the gap and forces the turnover, gets the steal. And it's like those little plays where, on an individual basis, those, right? Rafael Stone called him a playmaker, a defensive playmaker. And I think that is a very accurate description for what Tari Eason brings to the floor defensively.
I don't disagree with you on his instincts in the passing lanes. I think we can make a case that both of them are very good instinctually. I don't know who's better yet. I'm going to take the cop-out answer. I'm sorry. I don't know who's better yet defensively. I think just based off the film I've watched in Summer League and watching the games, I think Jabari is good at understanding the layers and the next step. Tari is also very good at understanding the next step. But because of his athleticism and his strength and his ability to kind of maneuver, I think maneuverability is a very key thing for a defender. Tari can kind of play aggressive and really gamble. I'm not comparing them because they are totally different players and body types, but I really like to compare Tari's this aggressiveness defensively to a Trevor Ariza when he played for the Rockets, where Trevor wasn't necessarily the best on-ball defender, but he was smart and he knew what was coming, and then he always was he was very much good at calculating when to take the risk of going for a steal or going for a poke or going for a dig or kind of, going towards a specific offensive player when they're going towards the rim, like stunning towards them. So I like that comparison for me, just based off some things I've seen. We're talking about him defensively. Jackson, what are your thoughts on him offensively? Because I think that's something that is honestly not that much talked about when it comes to Tari. We talk about his aggressiveness and his motor and being a good defender, primary and help defender, all that stuff. But I'm probably most excited for him as an offensive player. So just curious what your thoughts were seeing him in person on the court at Summer League.
I think some of that aggressiveness, right, from the defensive side of his game does spill over to how he approaches the game offensively, because right now the place that I'm most impressed with him offensively is his ability to do things in transition. He is really solid when it comes to, closing out a defensive possession strong, right? He was the leading rebounder across all of Summer League at 10.6 rebounds per game. That's
very impressive for a Rockets player to do.
Yeah. This Rockets team is just going to be so much bigger this next season. Seemingly overnight, they just went from being, they weren't quite pocket Rockets anymore, but it's just going to be nice to have some size and actually have some guys who take some pride in rebounding, closing out possessions strong, that kind of thing. But Tari's ability to come down with the rebound, and then there's two things that he is great at when you're talking about the transition game is one, and I think that Jabari also shares this quality. Both of them have done a great job at rebounding the basketball and then surveying the floor. I feel like a lot of bigs and even a lot of NBA players have a tendency to get the basketball and not immediately look for that outlet pass. And we've seen both Jabari and Tari make that move, where they get the board and they immediately look up and they're trying to see down the court who they have available to try and get a kick ahead pass to keep, to get the ball out in transition and get those easy opportunities, before the opposing team can get their defense set. So I love that from him. But then when he doesn't have that outlet pass, he's not afraid to put the ball on the floor. He will run the break in transition. And it doesn't always look the prettiest, but he does move like a bat out of hell in transition. He'll get the ball and he'll just start trucking, getting a full head of steam. And whether that's for him to then try and finish at the rim himself, or at least draw the defense in enough to then kick it to whoever the open man is in transition. I really think that's where he shined offensively, was his transition game. And then not only just that, but him also just filling the lanes in transition, right? Somebody else has the basketball, whether it's TyTy or Daishen Nix, and he just, he knows how to get into those spots to fill those gaps in transition, to be in the right spot, to then, cut at the last moment and get into the rim and get an easy opportunity, off of a dish from one of his guards, that kind of thing. So I think the half-court offense needs a little bit of work. I think he's settled into what he's going to be in the half-court, which is somebody who's going to get, wide open threes on the perimeter, maybe attack off the catch a little bit. Some of the decision-making when he's attacking off the catch was a little suspect at times, or maybe just a little bit, kind of telegraphed some of his offense. But overall, very pleased with what he brought to the table offensively.
I want to say one thing to you, the listener. I'm sorry. Okay, not every single listener, maybe. This is one of my little things where I call some people out, Jackson.
I'm getting called out? Oh my God.
No, there's been conversations on Rockets Twitter that a one Tari Eason is a Kawhi Leonard clone. And I just want to say, let's relax the hype a little bit. Okay.
I mean, I think the conversation is centered on the fact that the measurables are very comparable to Kawhi Leonard, like the physicals.
Okay. All right, that's fair. If that's what's happening,
the game does not the game is not resembling. I think there's no parallels there, at least not yet. The physicals are where it stands out, because Kawhi was an absolute physical specimen coming out, and so is Tari, with the massive hands, the wingspan, the size, the strength, all the things that we just kind of highlighted for him, and that's where I've seen the comparisons for the most part.
If I'm gonna kind of indulge in that conversation and kind of add some spark to that, I think Tari has a very good tight right hand dribble, which is something that I think was better than Kawhi at his age when he first came out. So if, don't quote me on that. This is not me saying Tari Eason is the next Kawhi Leonard. Please don't. I'm not saying that. But I think it's interesting. You're right about the body type. I think that's also a big reason why he was impressive in transition, because he was really good at absorbing contact. He didn't finish as effectively as one would like, but I suspect that's something the coaches and the developmental staff will work with him on these next few months and early in his career. Most importantly, developing a left hand. Drive left, buddy. You're very good at it. You can be good at it if you do it consistently. I think when I mentioned earlier, I'm most excited about him offensively. When I said that, I was most excited about him as a screener. And why is because I think he can play the 2, 3, or 4 on offense. And we've talked about this in previous Locked On Rockets film room shows, the wiper action, right? When a guy comes and essentially wipes out the defender, it's like kind of forcing a switch. He can be one of those wiper screeners that the Rockets like to run, or he could be somebody who slips and finishes. He had multiple possessions where he slipped and he had the ball and was able to finish, or like you said, had a telegraph pass to the weak side. So I think there's so much potential there, along with his great defensive ability, to be able to be a good screener. And if his shot takes a little bit longer to come along, screening is a great way for him to be able to impact the game.
Yeah, his ability kind of in the short roll. I'm kind of already envisioning a lineup where it's like Jae'Sean Tate, Tari Eason, and Jabari Smith running, small ball 5, essentially running 5 out, and then having Jae'Sean Tate and Tari Eason take turns, like, operating out of the short roll with 5, shooters all around the perimeter, or 4 shooters all around the perimeter, and just reading the defense and reacting and finding the open man. Some really enticing offensive opportunities. But
Jae'Sean is working out with Draymond this summer on his passing, by the way. I don't know if
that I didn't know. That's a nice little nugget there. Hashtag sources Bijani over here.
No, Jae'Sean talked about it. Jae'Sean talked about it.
I completely missed that then. Wherever that happened, I missed that. But coming up, we've got 3 more Rockets that we want to shed a little bit of light on, some general kind of preliminary thoughts before going into further, deep dive analysis on them. And that is Josh Christopher, Daishen Nix, and TyTy Washington. We're going to get there in just one moment. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast, home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, where you can help the show out tremendously by commenting on the videos. Remember the mantra, for the house, for the team, for the algorithm. Go comment on YouTube. It helps out a ton. Now, Alykhan, we've got this man tells me before we hit the record button, he's like, of course I still watch your show. Clearly he doesn't, because he doesn't know the mantra. So
I do. That's why I'm laughing at it. Come on.
Okay. All right. Now, Alykhan, we got 3 more guys to talk about here before we get into what has become just the new Rockets Civil War, Daishen Nix and TyTy Washington, those 2 guys, versus each other for whatever reason amongst Rockets fans. Let's talk a little Josh Christopher, because frankly, Josh has been a guy that we've spoken about, a lot before in previous episodes, you and I together.
I'm probably the president of the Josh Christopher fan club. I got to answer for this. It's been a long time coming for me to answer to what his summer league experience was like.
And look, this is coming from somebody who's incredibly high on what Josh Christopher can be, right? His potential. And I thought his summer league was a little underwhelming. And I've received a lot of pushback on this from Rockets fans. And I'm like, come on, guys, if we're going to be a little honest with ourselves, he went out there and he's supposed to be a bucket. Yeah, we saw that. The efficiency numbers were not great, but he was out there scoring. He was doing what he was told to do. But I wanted to see more from him, right? When Rafael Stone first introduced him, he said that he has Drew Holiday-like potential defensively, or that's what he wants him to be on the defensive side of the floor. And we've yet to see that with any level of consistency to this point. And I think that's why I was expecting and hoping for a little bit more. So what are your thoughts on what you saw to Josh Christopher in his 3 games?
All right, I got to take a deep breath here because I'm about to call out my guy, Josh. All right. In all honesty, Jackson, I wouldn't put too much stock in that performance. It's summer league. He was their best player. I think he was trying to put too much of his stamp on the game. I'm not gonna lie, and he can do that. But my goal for him, and I wish what he did more, was slow the game down. Just play slower. We know what you can do in transition, man. You are one of the best in the NBA at just getting to the middle and scoring. I mean, that's why you were so good in college. You can do that. You did that in summer league too. But slowing it down, he can get to the middle. But once you get to the middle, once you have that penetration, what do? There's multiple bodies there. What do you do next? That's the step for me with him. That's the next step for me with him. I like his tools defensively. He has moments where his tools can make up for a mistake he makes in coverage or a lapse in coverage, but you have to be able to combine tools with your instinct, with your ability to make reads defensively. And that last one, he does that. He just has to be more consistent. So the key takeaway I get from Josh is that I need him to be more consistent defensively. Consistent overall, not just defensively, offensively as well. I already know he's going to work on his shot. This dude works really hard. You ask a lot of coaches who are there over the summer who's working the hardest on his game. Josh Christopher's name will come up. I mean, he's working hard, and I know there are a few people who wish they saw more out of him, but don't push too much talk on it. Like I said, it's summer league. He was trying a lot to put a stamp on the game. I would go back and listen to what Steven Salas said about him during summer league. There was like a broadcast interview he did, and he was like, I want him to do this and this, and he's trying to do this. It's summer league. Let's take a deep breath, Jackson. He'll be fine.
Yeah, he's a 20-year-old kid. I don't want to, and that's where I try to realize some of my own criticisms of it, right? Where I think some of it comes from, again, I'm so incredibly high on what he can be as a player, which is why I think my scrutiny of him is a little bit harsher than it maybe would be for other players, because I want the best for him. I want to see him realize that potential, and I want to see him do it as a Houston Rocket. But you're right. It's summer league. He's 20 years old. He's, I know he was the grizzled veteran of the bunch out there in summer league, but he's just a kid like these other guys, and he's working on refining his game. He's always like the, first one on the floor warming up, last one to leave the gym during practice, still getting shots up. Like, it's always a funny thing. Like if we ever have Josh for like a media availability thing as like one of the requested players, it's like, okay, well, we might be here for a little bit because he's going to take some time getting shots up. And that's not like a rude thing. Like he's putting in the work, the hours into his craft. Yeah. So I have a lot of admiration and respect for what he has done to this point in his career. And I hope to see him continue to grow and, become the best version of himself with the Houston Rockets. But with these last two guys, Daishen Nix, TyTy Washington, the battle for the backup point guard spot effectively. I'm still firmly in the camp that I think right now it belongs to Daishen Nix, and I think it's kind of his job to lose, essentially.
Interesting.
Belongs to Daishen, his job to lose. And I didn't see enough out of TyTy Washington to immediately sway my decision, my perception of that backup point guard spot, in his favor, at least to this point. Yeah. I think they're very different backup point guards, or they're very different point guards in general in the way that they approach the game. And I think that TyTy's got more combo guard in him, whereas Daishen is a bit more of that traditional point guard. And it'll be curious to me and, to everybody else, right, to see what direction the Rockets ultimately go with that battle because of their respective skill sets.
The point you bring up about Daishen and TyTy being different types of players, we will get into that very soon. But for now, I just wanted to be able to say, I know some Rockets fans, like you mentioned, are on that TyTy over Daishen bandwagon. They believe that TyTy should get more reps, should be ahead of them on the depth chart. My brother Kelly Eco put out an article, had Daishen over TyTy. That had some it's a topic of debate, right, among Rockets fans. The stats show that Nix actually had a better summer league as a point guard than TyTy, particularly in the half court. Though I do think
that matches my eye test, because I thought TyTy was more effective in transition and Daishen was more comfortable and effective in the half court. So. Yeah,
and I will say I do think TyTy should and could have gotten more run in the half court, but let's just bring that up. Use more of an off guard in that in that situation. Daishen was handling it. TyTy excelled though in transition even more than Daishen, and like you just talked about, right? And I test that matched that for you too, so it matched it with the stats as well. It's gonna be a fun battle. One thing I just want to say about both of them is it's gonna be about TyTy. TyTy's floater. That's going to help you a ton because he's already so good at getting past the initial defender. He has those dribble moves. He can do that. It's gonna help him a lot when he gets past that initial defender and he's able to score over the help defender that rotates over. And the way the league is trending, you're having taller and lengthier help defenders now on the weak side. And him having that floater is a great tool. He's already ahead of the game compared to other rookies. So I really like TyTy. I hope he plays well. Hope all the success for his career. But I think right now, just based off of the stats. I'm not saying who I thought played better. I'm just saying right now, based off of what it looks like, and that could be because he got more run with the ball, but Daishen had a better summer league based off the stats.
Talking about TyTy's floater, I do so many Rockets podcasts every week. I can't remember which one I said this on, whether it was on LOR or one of the other ones that I do, but I think it was one of the other ones. But TyTy's float, like there was one game he was warming up and everybody else was on the perimeter shooting threes, and TyTy was the only one in the paint getting those floater shots up. And he wasn't just like standing in one spot remotely getting the ball passed back to him. He was ping-ponging between 3 different spots in the paint, like kind of the right block, left block, middle, right block. And he was like doing it random sequence. And I swear he got like 20 floaters up, didn't miss a single one until finally he like went all like the 21st floater. He like, just off the back iron and finally missed.
That's incredible.
I was sitting there just mesmerized. I'm like, there's a he has put in the work on that floater game, and having kind of a go-to mid-range weapon when you're not necessarily the biggest guard, being able to, finish through contact and stuff at the rim, which is the thing that we didn't really see from TyTy. And again, we'll get more into the specifics of their game, the Daishen Nix versus TyTy kind of battle in a later episode. But the floater's not the only skill that TyTy Washington has. Isn't that right, Alykhan?
Dude, I got to tell you, he thinks he's a really good bowler. And I don't know if this would ever happen, but I'd like to challenge TyTy Washington to a bowling match. I think I could beat TyTy. TyTy talks about how he's really good and he scores a lot. Hey, man, you're in Houston now. Let's go bowling. Let's see what happens. I will tell you, though, he bowls, like in bowling, there's like a hook, right? Like you basically do it like with your wrist going outwards, right? Like it's like your palm, your wrist, that area. I sometimes, or most time, I can't even lie, guys. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I like to bowl with my backhand, so like reverse hook, and I'm pretty good. You can ask my friends. And yeah, I would like to see who wins between me and TyTy, because I actually like to bowl myself. So, but I will say TyTy will probably obliterate me. He seems like he's very good. Anytime like a social media page asks him to do something, the social media page will like ask him like, what would you be if you weren't a basketball player? What's your favorite activity? Anything. He always finds a way to mention bowling. And for one of the videos, he actually like mimicked his bowling form. It's pretty good, man. I can tell he's a really good bowler. I feel like he has his own bowling shoes. He probably has his own bowling ball. He's probably going to bring that with him into Houston. So if that's the case, it'll be fun. Let's make something happen. We can do a film room on bowling mechanics. I think that would be a really fun idea. So.
I'm here for the TyTy Washington, Alykhan Bijani bowling battle royale. There we go. That's what we're going to call it.
Bonanza. The
bowling bonanza. Even better. My goodness. All right. Well, we have our first official call out here. The new beef in Rockets Twitter, at least until they can settle it on in a bowling alley, is going to be Alykhan Bijani versus TyTy Washington. Who's the better bowler? But that brings us to almost the conclusion of our show, where here at the end, we said we had an exciting announcement, and that is that I would like to be able to say that we're going to have more Locked on Rockets film room shows in the future if I can convince Mr. Alykhan Bijani to be back on more of a regular occurring basis. Do you think that's something that we can promise to the people, Alykhan?
Wait. Regular, like as in like every week for like forever, I gotta come on and do a show with you every week?
I mean, if you say I gotta, like if you say it like it's a chore, but yeah.
Let's do it. I think that sounds fun. Let's do it.
Hey, Houston fans, I am so happy.
Oh, okay.
Wait, where's Alp at? Alp's here? I heard from a reliable source, my brain, my imagination, that Alperen Sengun listens to Locked on Rockets. I don't know how true that is in my brain, but it sounds like, Alp's a fan of yours, Jackson.
Well, I heard from another reliable source named Josh Christopher from his mouth that he does listen to Locked on Rockets. So at least one current Rockets player is listening to the show, which should be enough of a, I guess that gives the show a little bit of credibility, all things said. But with that, Alykhan, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you back on the program. And again, looking forward to doing these deep dives moving forward with you on a week-to-week basis, even if I have to, go and dig you up myself, track you down, drag you into a room to record a podcast with me. But That's going to do it for our show. Alykhan, you know the drill. Let everybody know where to track you down at.
You guys, you can just follow me on Twitter, Rockets_insider. Please follow me also on Twitter at Rockets Film Room, and then subscribe to that YouTube channel. Now that Jackson and I are going to be doing this weekly, and when I say weekly, I mean starting now, weekly, you will have a Locked On Rockets Film Room show where you can expect the best X's and O's conversation you're going to have. And I mean that seriously. You know, I put in a lot of work to make sure that we come in every week and we can best inform and educate you Rockets fans on what's going on from an X's and O's perspective. And it would be very much appreciated if you subscribe to Locked On Rockets, if you subscribe to the Rockets Film Room, and just check out the content we're going to have for you moving forward. It's going to be awesome. A lot of really great stuff. I'm already working on something for, like we talked about earlier in the show, next week on Jabari Smith, his shooting mechanics, and how his shot looked in Summer League. So please tune in. Please be involved. Talk to us in the comments. Talk to us on Twitter. Talk to us on Discord, Reddit, wherever you want to talk to us. Talk to us. Let's be engaged. Let's have a good time.
Rockets Film Room on YouTube is at 908 subscribers right now. I'm going to put the link to the YouTube channel in the bio. I would love to see us get that channel to 1,000 by next week when we drop our next episode. So that would be awesome. So that's 92 subscribers. I don't think that's a ton. We can do that. There's a lot of you on the Locked On Rockets YouTube channel. Go subscribe to this one. I'm putting the link in the description. But as always, thank you so much for checking out the show. If you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing wherever you get your podcast. That's Apple, Spotify, Google, Odyssey app, free and available on all platforms. Already mentioned YouTube a couple times. Go to YouTube, search Locked On Rockets, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know your thoughts on Houston Rockets Summer League, the standouts, the little things that maybe we didn't mention that kind of stood out to you. Any questions that you have for Alykhan and I moving forward that you'd like addressed in a future episode, drop those in the YouTube comments. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. We look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.